then I will call the meeting of the Conservation Commission for Wednesday, November 4th, open. And we have a quorum, so I will call for a approval of the minutes from our October 20th meeting.
A motion to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. All right. We have one new public hearing tonight, and I will read that into the record. Under the Wetland Protection Act, Chapter 131, Section 40 of Mass General Law as amended, and the West Bridgewater Conservation Wetland Protection Bylaw Rules and Regulations, the Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing in remote participation on November 4th, 2020, for a notice of intent for a proposed construction of an in-ground swimming pool within 100 feet of a buffer zone at 148 Bedford Street. And we are open and ready to go.
So
John,
tonight,
we have somebody making a presentation?
we have
Yes.
Ken Thompson, who is going to present it. Ken, are you able to show the plan, or do you need me to do it?
Oh, I can show the plan.
Okay, I'll let you share then. Hold on for a second.
Mhm.
All right, it's a go.
All right, this is my field map from the property. The wetlands, as you can see, are out in this area and they're draining to the southeast here, down by KT1. My flags come up and wrap around the neighbor's yard there. The construction of the pools in this area, right in here, right behind that first brown square, like right there. Now I'm gonna put up the plan from the engineer. Where is it? Oh, there it is. So here's my wetland line. The pool touches the 100-foot buffer zone. We're working in the developed backyard. Erosion controls are installed. The landowner received a building permit and he thought he had permission to go forward. John, they got the hole started. Part of the frame is there to put the liner in. And John came out and stopped, and we immediately put up the erosion controls, and here we are. Immediately filed for the notice of intent. Does anybody have any questions on that?
No, my only question is going to be as far as, it's an in-ground pool, I assume, looking at
Yes.
it. And where was the water table when the pool went in?
I don't know. I was not.
Okay. My only concern is we're having so many of these pools and developments and houses and everything going in that are going close to or in the water table, that it's displacing larger amounts of water and they're going somewhere. And we're just trying to keep an eye on it to figure out, is it going onto the neighbor's property, or is it even being addressed? So that was my only concern.
Well, displacement by the pool maybe, but there'll be no discharge from the system. They're using that cartridge system.
Okay, okay.
So there's no like weekly pumping of the water across the landscape. So it's good for groundwater anyways. Pushing a pool into the water, if it gets too high, it'll come back up. Trust me. I've got one. And it did come up a little bit, you know? So
Now, as far as overflow from large rain events that land or end up in the pool, the overflow and discharge for that will be going to where?
I'm not sure on that. I mean, my pool has never overflowed. It gets full, but it doesn't overflow. And if it did overflow, it has to overflow through the apron part. You know what I mean? It will come up and drip over. There's no connection to a discharge. But I got a crack in my pool, so, you know. Basically, if a pool overflows, it's gonna go over the top and hit the ground that way.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I don't know if this is a saltwater pool. Yes, is that you, Galaxy? Is that you, Paul?
Yes, it's a salt. It's going to be a saltwater pool.
So they pour a pile of salt and it self-generates the chloride. So,
Okay.
you know, you won't be shocking and discharging and stuff like that. So, I mean, it seems to be the way to go right now.
John, anything? comments, concerns, questions?
No, other than, Ken, you haven't received a DEP file number, have you?
No, I have not. So we'd like to not close, but continue, and I hope we can work on any of the details in between. So on the next meeting, we can just finish this up. Hopefully, unless somebody has more questions that I can answer.
Any other members' questions?
I don't have any. I mean, can you proceed without a DEP number or not?
I don't think we can close the meeting, can we, John?
No, we can't close the hearing, but we don't need to have you or the landowner applicant have to participate in another Zoom meeting. I mean, you're free to do that, but we can just administratively open the continued public hearing, vote on it officially, and then doesn't require any giving any presentation
Yeah,
at that meeting.
I understand.
Yeah, I'd be in favor of doing that.
Okay.
And when is your next meeting?
Um,
How often do you guys meet?
So the next meeting is scheduled for the 17th of November.
Okay, thank you.
And John, we'd just be issuing the standard order of conditions for this?
It would be just a standard order. Would include the requirement for cartridge filter, which they already are going to do anyway.
All right, then I will entertain a motion to continue the public hearing to our next meeting.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Moving second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. And so I
Just
think next meeting we'll just ratify issuing the order conditions and closing the meeting, and then you'll be all set.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody.
You're welcome.
Perhaps if the commission doesn't see any problem, because I know that the construction season is really getting tight.
Mhm.
If the applicant were to continue the construction, now that the commission doesn't have any major issue, of course, they do it at their own risk, but I would say that if the commission is in agreement, I wouldn't go out and do an enforcement on the fact that they started without the DEP file number.
I take it it's on the way. It just doesn't come in.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. I mean, the season is getting short, and I know these folks would like to get the pool in.
It's all, it would be all at their own risk, because somebody could come down on them, but I don't have an issue to go out and do an enforcement just because they don't have the file number yet, and the commission is in agreement to, or seems to be in agreement to approve it at the next meeting.
Yeah, I mean, if they want to risk going, and I don't think at this point, all the abutters have been notified, and none of them have a concern, it seems, so I
got one
I'd
phone
say go
call.
ahead and proceed.
What was it?
I received one phone call from one abutter, and she just wanted to know what was going on, and told her it was a pool. She said, "Oh, great." So,
Well, at least this way they could get going over the next couple of
yeah,
weeks.
we appreciate that.
Right.
We appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, normally with regular construction season, I wouldn't see any reason to kind of let it go, but with it starting to get cold, and it won't be long now. And Paul, is that your name as the applicant?
Patrick.
Patrick?
Yeah, Patrick Paulding.
Oh yeah, I should have remembered that, because I remember talking to you. If that little guy keeps making any more noise, we're going to make him an alternate member of the commission.
No, I'm sorry.
We're
No,
doing
that's
that.
okay.
That's okay, that's fine.
Don't apologize. We
We all
like
have kids.
kids.
But just, That means there's gonna be somebody to use that pool real soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Anything else?
All
You're
right,
all
I think
set.
you're good to go.
Thank you, everybody.
You're
Thank you for your
Thank you.
cooperation.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye-bye.
All right, John, I think everything else on our agenda tonight is administrative items.
Yep.
So we want to start at the top with 143 Scotland Street, a request for certificate of compliance.
So 143 Scotland Street was the fellow who wanted to grade his backyard instead of having a steep drop off. He wanted to gradually slope it down to the 50-foot buffer. And we needed to have PVC pipes and markers set along the 50-foot buffer. And so he got those in, and I checked them out today. And all his other paperwork is in, so I recommend issuing a certificate of compliance for 143 Scotland Street.
Is that the one that just did the garage?
No, that's 153.
Okay.
This is the one next door to that.
Yeah.
On the other side. Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to issue the certificate of compliance for 143 Scotland Street.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
So moved.
Even though it's not next, since Lee brought up 153, which is the foundation going in, I checked on the building permit, and it was issued in August. And because it was below 5,000 square feet and over 100 feet away from the wetland, it didn't require a stormwater permit. So that was the answer for that.
Thank you.
Now I'll throw a little monkey wrench question into it. The building didn't require it, but if he widens that driveway and paves it, does that add to it and make that over the 5,000?
So paving that driveway would be another phase of the project. And that, I believe, would be more than 5,000 square feet. So I think it would be a good idea for me to alert the fellow that if he does that, he needs to file with us first for a probably administrative stormwater permit.
Okay, I'm just looking at it saying this project looks to be piecemeal all the way through. And all of a sudden we've added areas in the back and pools and all this and patios and other impervious surfaces bit by bit. And pretty soon you're going to be well over that threshold if it goes little chunks at a time, and we might not catch it later on.
Yeah, and that was gonna happen on a weekend too, on a Saturday. That
Right.
paving the driveway might happen quick.
Yeah,
Well, after the meeting, I will send an email because I still have some hours to put in. So I will definitely send an email about the paving.
okay, that was my
Good,
only concern on that
A
one.
good point though, Tim, because that is a difference. Making it gravel, he got that covered under the original stormwater permit for all that he did. But putting pavement down is going to be a new project and has changed the surface from somewhat pervious to impervious. So we definitely have to deal with it.
Is that anything with over 5,000 square feet? Oh, what was it that you said?
So anything over 5,000 square feet up to 15,000 is administrative permit, and then 15 and greater is a general stormwater permit, which requires public hearing, abutters notified, all that.
So anything over 15,000, okay.
So the administrative permit is just a fee that he gets charged.
So there's a fee and an application, and then basic conditions are issued with the permit. And if it's violated those real basic conditions, then there's enforcement options available to the commission.
All right, 69 Sunset Ave extension, request for surety release.
So as part of the standard special conditions, in order to have the applicant assure us that they're going to ask for a certificate of compliance, we started requiring a surety bond for certificate of compliances. And for a single family house in a subdivision like that Sunset Ave extension, it's a $2,000 surety. And that was paid by the owner of the property, but he sold it. So he's requesting the return, and I said he couldn't have it until, or we couldn't decide to release it until the new owner brought in surety, and the new owner has done that. The new owner is JAD Builders, I believe it's called, James Donato.
Okay.
And so he's deposited the 2,000. So now we can return Mr. Ephraimides, the original owner, his money, and he's requested it. So we have all the paperwork. We just need to have the commission vote on it. So I'm recommending release.
Any questions?
No,
Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to release the surety for 69 Sunset Ave for the Ephraimides request.
I'll make the motion.
Oh, second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
So
So
moved.
on that same lot, the new developer, the new builder, we had our site meeting, which is one of the requirements of the order of conditions. And I noticed his building permit plan was different than the plan we approved at the site. It's only minor, it's only a small amount, it's a bump out in the front, has really no impact on the project, but it is a technicality. And I think it's necessary sometimes with builders to set a tone. And the tone is that even if it is a minor technicality, we want to know. Also, he's putting his deck in a different spot on the back. It's no bigger than what we approved. He just slid it one direction from where we originally approved it. So again, I wanted to set the tone and said, get me a request for a minor project change and we'll have the commission vote on it. So I'm recommending that it is a minor project change, but I didn't want to let it slide. So I think we're setting the proper tone in this case. So I'm recommending minor project change.
All right, any questions?
No,
Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minor project changes for 69 Sunset Ave.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. We have 45 South Elm Street, request for release, which I'm guessing the grass may be up, John?
It is, and is sufficiently thick enough to hold the soil in. Plus, the new owner took my advice and they put mulch down below the drip line of the eaves because there were no gutters in that area. And it appears to have worked very well in terms of not eroding and creating rivulets down across the new lawn area. And so I'm recommending, since the grass is sufficiently established, to release the surety of $1,500 that we had on it.
All right, any questions?
No.
All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to release the surety for 45 South Elm Street.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved.
All right, we're into zoning. So I'm going to share with the commission a couple of things here. Just bear with me. So here's one of the poster childs for what we've been faced with lately. This is Luke Drive number 3. You can see that they have a septic system to the right of the house. They have the house itself. Can you see my cursor all right?
Yep, yep.
I'm gonna make it a circle. They have the conservation easement in the back, and you can see the grade is quite steep right down to a rock retaining wall. They have the roof leaching system over here and a detention drainage basin in the front yard. And I know that at some point in time, they're gonna wanna have a pool. They're gonna wanna have a shed on this property, and they have very little room to do that. So it irks me that they can get this approved by the commission, because there's nothing wrong with it in terms of we're protecting the wetlands like we need to. It meets the zoning, but this person who's moving in, paying almost $700,000 or more for the house, are going to expect to be able to use their yard. And yeah, they probably shouldn't have bought the lot if they wanted to have anything more than that. But we know that that doesn't always happen in the rush to be able to buy a house and move into West Bridgewater. So I've come up with some proposed ideas that I want to run by the commission. And I think it might eliminate this problem. And if people don't like the regulation, it's a very easy thing to comply with it. So there's really no reason, just because they don't like it, to turn it down. But we might have to do a little bit of public relations before it can be passed. So I'm going to stop sharing that and take something else and show you what I've come up with. Before I do that, I'm going to try one more thing here for you. So this is a different site, and it's one that I've focused on and have the most exhibits to show you. So this is 164 Lincoln Street. The lot is about almost 7 acres, six and a half acres of land. And all that can be used on it is this green area that you see within the lot. The outline of the lot is in this pea colored green. The wetlands are in the blue. The 50-foot buffer is this red cross-hatched area. And it's so bad that the developer had to create a driveway easement on the abutting lot. And so the entrance to this lot is on 154 Lincoln Street and is in a recorded easement, and then they go off into the house. So the septic system's in the back of the house with steep slopes down off the septic system in all directions. And it's so filled up between the house and this retaining wall that it's probably a good 4 feet high. So they can't really use this area down here. And it's very difficult to get up this slope and to get into the backyard. And yet their deck is here with a set of steps that makes it fairly easy to get up onto the deck, but to get up underneath the deck or into the backyard, you have to go up that pretty steep slope. So the best way to get to their backyard is up these steps and stairways in the front of the house. And there's a limited flat space on top, which the septic system is below, and then it drops right back down again. So if they were to try to put in a pool or something else and try to get equipment into this backyard, they can't do it without destroying the slope or the getting into the conservation easement. So the lady who lives here asked me to come out to take a look at it for some dangerous trees that are around her house. And she also mentioned that they would like to do a few things in the backyard. And I said, well, you really don't have much room. And she didn't realize that. So again, buyer beware, I understand, but I think the engineer that draws the plan is setting people up to fail. We're approving the plans because we have to. They've met all the requirements, and we're setting them up to fail. And then we have to face these people and tell them you can't do things. And I'm just getting kind of sick and tired of it. And I think it's not fair when they're spending that kind of money to move into these new homes in West Bridgewater and can't do anything with it. And she also indicated that if she had known all these things, she may not have decided to buy that property. And that's unfortunate as well. So the two that I showed you were what I consider irritating lots that I know we're going to have issues with. Although this woman seems pretty sincere that she's not going to try anything without us knowing first. But I don't know about the other lot. So I'm going to stop sharing that and come up with another exhibit that I want to show you.
And the other thing we're finding out is that, especially that last one that John just shared with us, the developer is required at the beginning of the project to put in the markers, and they're not getting put in until after the fact, or with this one, they're not even there yet. So I've talked to John, and I think at this point going forward, we're not going to allow them to move any soil, break ground, or do anything until the silt fence and markers are in place and certified, and we know they're there. And then nobody can go back to us later on and say, well, we didn't know they were markers or wetlands or anything. They're not there when we bought the house or when we put the pool in or something else. And then we can have it on record that they're there before you even started the project.
So can everybody see this?
Yep.
All right, this is a standard lot in West Bridgewater. The green is the lot, 150 feet minimum frontage, 200 feet minimum depth, making 30,000 square feet of usable land. If the wetlands were to the rear of this property, right at the rear, there would be a 50-foot setback to the red line that you see here. And this is a 60-foot long house with a 2-car garage, which is 24 feet by 24 feet, with 20-foot minimum setback on each side, which is required by zoning, but obviously there's more to the green line, so it more than meets the red square that you see here, more than meets the zoning requirement. It allows minimum 20 feet away from the foundation for the septic system. In this case, it's in the front. And it allows for a deck, a normal sized pool. Most of them are kind of oval shape or not really rectangular, but that's a typical pool, play area and a shed with contained within the red area more than enough room for kids to play in their yard. So that red square is 124 foot along the front and 150 foot deep. As I said, the minimum lot size in West Bridgewater is 30,000 square feet, which is the 150 by 200. So in my estimation, and I'd like some feedback from the commission, if you think this 124 by 150 is a reasonable usable space on a piece of property, with no wetland buffer or wetlands on it, then we could use that as our model. And I'll show you, if you have any questions, I won't stop sharing this one, but I've got another one with the septic in the back.
On the, on this one right here, if there wasn't any wetlands in the back, they'd be able to use it right up to the 200 feet, right?
Exactly, yep.
Yeah, so they have a lot more space, so.
So that would be a really nice lot in West Bridgewater. And a lot of the newer subdivisions, like the farm, where the only wetlands are way in the back, a lot of the lots are like this, where you have plenty of room and there's no issue with them. It's where you get in places like Luke Drive or Pearl Road, where the lots are surrounded by wetlands. It makes it a little bit more difficult.
Except for there's no privacy like on the farm.
Right, yeah.
There's no privacy anywhere.
Their privacy are these 6-foot tall plastic white fences that everybody's putting up there.
Now,
So
John, this is similar to what the planning board already uses, but they just use a 100-foot by 100-foot square, I believe.
They use 100-foot by 100-foot square that starts at the 35-foot setback of the street. And it doesn't matter whether there's wetlands or buffers in that
Right.
square. So on that one I showed you on Luke Drive, that one, the 100 feet went out into the wetland and included the 50-foot buffer. So it met every requirement that the planning board has.
Right.
If they were to say that building square could not have any 50-foot buffer or wetlands, we'd be
Yep.
less than what I'm showing here, but at least we'd be better off than we currently are today with none of that requirement.
Right. I
So
would just try to use their example to try to come up with something as uniform as we could as a blueprint. I like the size saying if you had at least 100, and I'd even be willing to say 125 by 150. Make it nice, even numbers.
Yep.
Or say 125 by 125 and make it a square and sell it to the planning board. Let's all use the same square and use 125 feet. We'll compromise and say you want 100, we want 150. If we say 125, would that work? I mean, I like the 150, but I'm just wondering whether if we have to negotiate to a position on this, whether it makes more sense to make it an even square instead of a rectangle.
Sure, and I think the one that we tried to propose last year, if we had just said that the building square can have no wetlands or 50-foot buffers, I think we probably wouldn't have to be discussing this and if they had passed it, or if we had gone to town meeting and got it passed, we probably wouldn't have to have this discussion. I think 100 by 100 is a little too tight for usable space. So you're right. If we wanted to do 125 by 125, it's better than what we got today. So
Right, but I'm just throwing that number out there. I mean, I'm willing to hear what anybody has to say. I mean, if 150 is the number we want to go with and tell them you have to keep to that, I mean, it.
all right, I'll show you the same concept, but with the septic in the back.
Okay. And Mo, you're muted.
Unmute him all.
Hey, Mo. Mo, you're muted.
I'll unmute him.
Okay, there we go, Mo. Whoop,
Oh,
there we go.
oh. Still mute him all. I can't read lips.
How's that?
There you go.
There we go. Now I hear you.
The planning board doesn't object to what we're proposing, do they? Do they understand the problem with these little teeny lots and the issues?
Or do they even know yet that we're thinking about?
They knew what we were trying to do last year, but they had some issues with the fact that, for example, if this was an existing street like we show here, and there were wetlands in the front that you had to cross over with a small driveway crossing to get to the uplands, our proposal last year wouldn't work for that. And so they had some concern about that and didn't want to have it all shot down at town meeting because we had some technical flaws in it. So we all know that most of the lots in town don't work out this way, where they're perfectly rectangular and that they don't have any wetlands on them at all. That most of them have some type of wetland. So what I've come up with is something that might work, because a square doesn't always fit where the wetlands are, and you could really knock a bunch of the available land down to not being able to be qualified for building. It's not that we are so concerned about developers getting all the building lots that they can get. We're more concerned with whatever lots they design, people should be able to use them. And so I don't want to get into being accused of taking away someone's right to create lots because the perfect square doesn't fit within the lot lines, and I'll show you what I mean. But I've been showing these standard street lots just to show you what appears to be a reasonable space for people to use. In this one, the house is at the minimum setback, that's zoning setback for the town, with the septic in the back, still has room for the pool, the shed, and the play area with the same rectangle of 124 by 150. So the house slides forward, everything else goes in the back. So, as I said, it doesn't always fit this perfect layout because of the wetlands that might be on the land. So I've come up with an idea. And so the purpose of the first two exhibits were to show you reasonable space, a development polygon. And it's a polygon because it's got multiple sides. So happens this polygon is a rectangle. A square can be a polygon, or a six-sided figure can be a polygon. So I'm going to stop sharing this one and bring up a true life situation. So, by the way, I used to open these all up and have them all open on my screen. And then I found that my computer would cut out of the Zoom meeting and I would lose my connection. And it probably had something to do with using up so much power, I guess, or something. But anyway, here's lots on Lincoln Street. So we have, these are actual as-built plans that I pasted on the lots for the 8 lots that were created by Form A plan on Lincoln and South Elm Street. So we have lot 1, 2, wetlands are in the blue, the buffers are in the reds. And you can see lot 1 has sufficient room to do the things anybody wants to do for pools, sheds, and gardens, and swing sets, and same with lot number 2. Lot number 3 is the one, the poster child one I showed you, where all they have is this little bit of room here to do anything. Lot 5 is an existing house, and I dread the day that they have to come in and either tear the house down or put a septic system in, because they don't really have much room, even though the lot is fairly large. Lot number 4 has frontage over here on Lincoln Street with a narrow strip to get out to the back. And what did I just do? So they have to access their land off of South Elm Street over this right-of-way to the house. But you can see it has plenty of room for the house, 2-car garage, septic. They don't have a pool, at least that I'm aware of yet, but they have room for it, and sheds and gardens and swing sets. And then lot number 6 is one that we just recently issued a certificate on, and you can see it has plenty of room. Little tight on the driveway side, but plenty of room in here to do a pool and a shed. I'd like to see a little bit more land there, but there is sufficient room to do normal things. 7 doesn't have any wetlands and plenty of room, and 8 the same thing. So the concern that I have is 4 lots like number 3. And so I came up with the idea of, rather than using a rectangle, you can use a rectangle if it fits, but if you have a lot like 3 where a rectangle wouldn't work, a polygon of a number of sides would suffice, as long as it had that square footage that a 124 by 150 rectangle has, which turns out to be 18,600 square feet of usable land by the homeowner. And if 18,600 fits because you have a long, narrow polygon or a multi-sided polygon that's just more than 4 sides, that would work. And so I ended up taking this plan, reconfiguring the lot so that lot number 3 would have more space, and I'll show you how that looks.
Mo's muted again.
So here we are with my layout of this, using the 18,600 square feet. And so this black dash line that you see here was where the old lot line was, and I configured it to be where the solid line is here, adding in area that's purple on this plan. So as you can see, it doesn't fit necessarily with 124 by 150 square, but by having all of the space, that house could have been repositioned over here, leaving plenty of room in the front for the septic, and then plenty of room in the back for pools, sheds, and so forth. And the only reason the engineer didn't think that it was necessary is because there was nothing requiring him to do it. And all it took was taking this line that was here and moving it over to here. They get the same number of lots, 8 lots.
Yep.
everybody has more than enough room, because I showed you 1 and 2 had more than enough room. 6 had room, 7 had room, 8 had room. I've taken away some of the excess land on lot 4, which if this was the way it was originally proposed, the people on lot 4 wouldn't know any different because they're seeing the black line rather than the dash line. And yet lot number 3 can do a lot more things that they should be able to do, paying probably the same price for this house as this house, as this house, as this house. So these people really are unfortunate in that they can't use their space like anybody else can here. And if we had a requirement that said no new lot being created by a engineered plan can have anything less than a developable polygon of 18,600 square feet, I think everybody would be happy. We'd be happy. The new homeowners getting into the town would be able to use their yard like anybody else all over town, and the developer would still get the same number of lots. The problem is that the engineer is going to have to spend a little bit more time thinking. And the only reason they didn't think about the people buying lot 3 is because they weren't made to think. They were only, their only objective was to get a lot for the developer, and they didn't care what they left for the new owner to have to deal with.
But even though lot 3, if it was this way, the way you have it now, the issue that they would still have would be if they wanted to put a pool or something like that, could they even get the machinery in there?
Yes, because what I think could happen, Lee, is that this house got put there because they didn't have much else space to do anything.
The house would have been moved, yeah.
Yeah, so the house would be in here, the system in the front, or even if you left the system where it's shown here and put the house here,
True, yeah.
you still have the backyard, and you don't have to have all that grading issue, making it impossible to get back there with equipment.
Yeah. But if he had done it this way in the beginning and left the house right where it is, they would have an issue of getting the equipment
Right.
behind there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Jeez.
Like John said, if you just turned the house, 90 degrees, faced it a little bit different, you'd have plenty of space to do what you're looking for.
You have all those the walls there.
Right, the slope and the
Yeah.
high grade. And to be honest with you, you could get a premium for that lot because it's pretty much an isolated compound with, nobody can really see you except for one neighbor.
Yeah.
If the vegetation grew around it, you would never see anybody back there. It would be a great lot to own if you could use all of it and had the room to do something without those giant slopes having to be put in.
So what I did is I took and figured the area by making a polygon that would fit, and it had a little dog leg to it, but it had, I got it calculated somewhere here, but it had a number of sides. I think it was more like 6 or 8 sides possibly, but it encompassed 18,600 square feet. And so when I looked at this lot, it would hold a square of 124 by 150 easily. This one, the 124 by 150 wouldn't fit in here, but the polygon that was left added up to 18,000, actually 19,000. And of course, any lot that doesn't have any wetlands, this regulation wouldn't apply to, because it only applies to lots with wetlands and buffers on them. Any other lot, we don't need anything because they've got usable space for the whole lot. So that's the concept, and I'll show you what I came up with wording. So I don't know if you can read this. Is it readable?
Yep.
Okay, so the preamble is put in there just to explain what we're trying to do. And so to properly protect the 50-foot no-touch wetland buffer and the adjacent wetlands there too from being disturbed, the owners of new residential lots need to have sufficient land area on their lot which is not encumbered by wetland buffers and wetlands for utilization of the ordinary expected primary, accessory, and stormwater mitigation residential uses all owners have a right to enjoy. So it's our experience that newly created lots having insufficient usable land area to use for their customary enjoyment and stormwater mitigation has shown they will likely disturb and encroach the 50-foot buffer. This encroachment defeats the scientific purpose for the buffer's protection of the bordering vegetated wetland. The commission has determined that to a need to adopt the regulation and provide the new owners of lots with a reasonable amount of land area. And it can include the wetlands and the buffer. So the proposed wording would be, I know I kind of gave you a shorthand version, but
Yep.
any newly created lot upon which is located within its boundary a wetland as defined in the West Bridgewater Wetland Protection Bylaw or a 50-foot buffer thereto shall be laid out geometrically so as to be able to contain a development polygon within the lot containing a minimum of 18,600 square feet and be devoid of wetlands or 50-foot buffers thereto. The development polygon shall have a shape factor of 22 or less. The commission may waive a shape factor greater than 22 if the waiver is justified. So a shape factor sounds kind of like a spooky thing, but it's all it is taking the perimeter of the development polygon and squaring it and dividing by the development polygon's area. The development polygon is an area shown on the lot containing 18,600 square feet, which has a suitable geometric shape factor to allow customary primary, accessory, and stormwater mitigation uses reasonably expected by a lot owner in any residential district of the town. So talking about a development polygon that's needed within the lot. It doesn't specify that it has to be square, only a polygon of some sort, but the more weirder the polygon becomes, the shape factor ratio rises tremendously. So a square, if you take the four sides of a square and add up on the perimeter, no matter what size square it is, and square it, and then divide by the area of that square, it comes out to be 16. So 16 would be ideal because it's a square. As the polygon, a rectangle in many cases is right around the same number of 16, a little bit more, but right around that number. As you get weirder in your shape of the polygon because of the wetlands and buffers all around, you start to get up to 22 fairly quickly. But the example I showed you for 164 Lincoln Street with the house in the purple area added in, that shape factor came out greater than 22, but because it's accomplishing what we're looking for, the commission could waive it.
So if it's,
Because it accomplishes what you're looking for.
if it's under 18,600 square feet, then it's not suitable to be built
Right.
on?
Right. Now, those lots, all of them, even the one that I reconfigured the lot for had more upland than 18,600. But the point that I achieved was that polygon could fit and be reasonably used So if we allowed them just to trace along the perimeter of the buffers and with the different shapes of the buffers in the wetlands, you'd have multi-sides to a polygon, and it might not, you might get the 18,600, but you might not be able to use it because of where everything sits.
Which
Having
means you'd have,
having a polygon with a fairly reasonable shape factor, which means as square, rectangle, or close to it as possible, you give the people the chance to use it for normal circumstances. On that 164 Lincoln Street, Lee did bring up a good point. It's still difficult to get equipment in and around on such a lot shaped like that, but it was possible. You start making that lot shape factor a lot weirder and greater than 22, and all of a sudden you might not be able to, you might meet the requirement, but you might not be able to get equipment in, especially if it's like only 5 feet between the two buffers, and yet you're calling that part of your 18,600. So the shape factor is the key here in making it a usable 18,600. Getting it back to that concept of a 124 by 150, which we know is ideal, but not always achievable when there are wetlands and buffers around the property. So that's the presentation. It's a lot to think about, and I will send it to everyone so that you can take a look at it. The key here is, do we require it as a wetland bylaw regulation and avoid going to town meeting to get it approved? We still have to have a public hearing on it and do all the public things that we need to do, but we wouldn't have to go to town meeting. So the question comes up, how does the engineer creating a lot in the town now on a subdivision or Form A lots along a street know about this? We're going to let everybody know about it, including the planning board, and the planning board would say to the people, we can approve this plan, but you're not going to be able to get by the Conservation Commission, so you might want to go back to the drawing board. So they'll have all of the requirements notified to the regular engineers. It'll be on the website, it'll be in the bylaw, and it would be something that the planning board is aware of, and we wouldn't have to make the planning board be the one to try to get town meeting to approve this. So that's an option. I mean, if you want to go zoning, we could put it up, but it requires planning board review and approval and recommendation at town meeting. Plus, I think it needs 2/3 vote. I think if we made a presentation at town meeting that was logical and explained why we're doing it for the protection of people in town, and those who have suffered from this would back us, it probably wouldn't be any issue. So we have the option to go in that direction. So that's another thing to think about. How do we do this? Is zoning or through the wetland regulations?
I think we do. I think we should make it a bylaw, because we're here to protect the wetlands and provide the people their right to be able to use the property the way they should. And if we do it this way, you know, with a bylaw and let the planning board know and all that stuff, I don't see why we should go to town meeting for.
John, are other towns have similar bylaws as this?
Yeah, but it doesn't matter about the other towns, though. This is our town. This is
No,
this
but
town.
I'm thinking about the wording.
So to be honest with you, Mo, I have not seen this before. Now, there are towns that require a building square, or I'm calling it a development polygon, but a lot of times they'll call it a building polygon with a shape factor requirement of 22 or less.
All right.
So though that shape factor isn't something that's Ike just came up with. That is a zoning requirement to make the shape of the lots more uniform in a subdivision, so you don't have those gerrymandered lots that we saw on Lincoln Street and South Elm.
Sure.
But very few of them mention anything about, although if I remember correctly, Norton does not allow wetlands to be part of that polygon. They don't mention anything about the 50-foot buffer because Norton doesn't have a 50-foot buffer requirement. But if I remember correctly, their zoning bylaw says that that lot has to be able to have that polygon with a shape factor of 22 or less. And it does say, and it can't have wetlands in it.
What
So
size
that's
is
probably
this?
the closest I've seen to this.
But your engineers are more than familiar with what you're doing here, I'm sure.
Yes.
Okay.
What size
Well,
is
I would agree with Lee that we approach it, the simplest way and avoid a town meeting.
because we're not really doing anything other than what we've been trying to do is protect the wetlands and keeping the property of people who are buying it to be able to use it the way they should be using it. Because
Right.
we've already had issues of people going in there and just clearing, the backyards and all that stuff and putting stuff in that they're not supposed to be. So if we just do this right off the bat, just let them, just make it a bylaw and let it go.
So if we didn't have the preamble talking about the scientific reason for protecting a 50-foot buffer, and that we also mentioned stormwater management mitigation devices, because you got to squeeze in the roof drains and rain gardens or other things like that. People would say that has nothing to do with wetlands. It's you're talking about more zoning, and by rolling the information about protecting the 50-foot buffer and providing reasonable space for stormwater mitigation and residential uses, I think we get over that hurdle of being found that this is more of a zoning regulation rather than a wetland regulation. So that was a cute little maneuver there that I put in.
I'm agreeing with Mo and Lee here, because I think my understanding of the planning board is they're probably not in favor of any of this. Even with John's tweaking and changes and trying to make it a little bit more amenable to what they might want. But just from the group that's there currently, I can't see them really wanting to support this in any form. So I would say, yeah, if we could do it with a bylaw change to the wetland protection regulations that we have, and coming up with the right square footage or the right numbers that we want to use for the polygon, I would think that would be a better way to go.
Okay. Do you want me to send all this out to you guys and have you look at it, and we can talk about it at the next meeting? There's no rush.
Yeah, send it out. I'd like to take a look at it. And that way there I could throw some polygons onto some plans that we have just to see how it all would play out.
And to tell you the truth, I don't think anything's really gonna be, we could start this for next year, for next spring. I mean,
Right, the next building cycle or,
yeah, I mean, now it's getting into the pile where building's basically gonna be done in another good month or so, so.
Yeah, I would have sent it out to you sooner, except for, quite frankly, I just finished it up today, making all those drawings and reducing 20 scale as-built plans down to a 50 scale plan that would fit everything on it. So I mean, it's been a very interesting project, but very time consuming. So that's why it wasn't out to you before this meeting. And it's only a discussion item anyway, so.
Yeah.
I mean, John, would that shape factor of 22 be a number that is realistic, say, for that lot 4? I mean, what would have lot 4 on that Lincoln Street been? A 30 or a 33?
So lot number 3, which is the one
Yeah.
with the lady with the trees.
Yep, yep.
Hold on for a second. So I'm going to take this one down and bring up another one. So this is the one that we were looking at before. So the shape factor for lot number 3, the one that had that purple,
Yep, yep.
was 27.5.
Okay, so I mean, that's would be within a range of acceptability. I was just curious where that really 22 would have thrown it. So I mean, with us being able to say, yes, that would be a justifiable reason to give a variance to let them develop it. Versus if something like that came in with a 30 or 38, we might say, no, go back to
Right.
the drawing board and work it through.
Yeah, so this is pretty odd, this configuration here.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's kind of getting to the limit, as you say. And it would have to be really justifiable to grant a waiver on that one. But the lot next to it, that had a lot shape factor of 16 because it was a perfect rectangle of 124 by 150 that fit in here. So that, as I say, actually it was just a little over 16 because it was a rectangle. This lot number 6 was 19.9, and it had a figure that looked something like that. Well, I can't rotate that, but it was
Right.
more
it
like
was, yep.
more like that. If can
Yeah, so 22 really isn't that outrageous of a number to come up with.
no. I think I might have another one. Hold on. I don't want to take too much more time, but I just want to show you the one that I think I have all that on there. So this is the plan that shows the original layout of all the lots that were approved by the planning board, and eventually the lots were submitted for us to get approvals for. And so here's a 140 by 133 rectangle. It's 18,620, and it shows a shape factor of 16.
So they would have had plenty of room to be able to move that lot.
Yep.
the way you had it before, without, yeah, like you said, without them even
Yeah,
knowing.
And then the lot number 6, this is the rectangle that I created. Actually, it's not a rectangle. It's the line goes where you see the red,
Yep,
and then it runs along the lot line.
property line, yep.
And so I just added up all the perimeter and divided it by the area, which I approximated by making a bunch of triangles and figuring the area as 19,860. And it comes out 19.9.
Yeah, so that's easily within the range, so.
And that 19.8, same with the other ones, are all usable of the 33,500 square feet lot, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the idea. I'm going to send it out to everybody, the various exhibits and the wording for the proposal, and we'll give it some thought and talk about it at the next meeting.
Now, I got one thing I want to bring up. It was brought to my attention. East Center Street there, you know where they built that, that contractor's building there, you know, the across from Riverbend?
Yep.
There was some noises in the back. I was told some like banging noises. Have they been doing any like digging or filling or anything behind there that they should have come in front of us before
So
doing anything?
That's 265 East Center Street,
Yeah,
and Algar was the applicant.
yeah,
It's going to be a car wash, and then it became a contractor's building.
yeah.
They have a septic system way out in the back.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That's a pump system.
Yeah,
And then they have in the back of the building basically to access around the building. It's all going to be paved around the building. And there's a stormwater basin involved and areas in the back of the building that are part of the 50-foot buffer to the wetlands in the back. So they have been preparing that for paving.
okay.
And so I haven't been in there, but I will check it and find out what's going on. So you think that maybe there's something?
Well, actually, now that I think about it, if they've been doing that,
Septic
getting ready for
system,
paving, there might have been the roller there, because that kind of like bangs, 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 you know how like do. So maybe
Yeah.
that was the noises that the people were hearing, that
the compactor or whatever.
compact, they yell over the
Yep.
dirt and everything. That could have been what that might have been then.
So driving by it every day, going to work and now going home at night, I probably won't be able to see too much going on, but I'm concerned about the height of the driveway on the side closest to the building next door, which is a pizza place and a
Yeah.
limo place, that kind of thing. I don't recall that being part of the plan.
What, the driveway around the back?
No, the driveway was
height.
there, but the height of it. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering if it's meeting the original intent of the plan. And so I'll check on that, but the developer wouldn't be able to get away with it because the engineer's going to have to do an as-built on it. And that's presuming they want to get a certificate of compliance. What if they never come to us? There are cases where we don't get asked for a certificate. So maybe the time is to step in now before they start paving. Because
Yeah, make sure that they, yeah, they're not doing.
Get the
something
drainage
like-
right now before the drainage is, yeah.
yeah, so we're banking on the fact that they're going to ask for a certificate, and if it's not right, we won't issue it. Well, if they just never ask for it. And I've been amazed at some of the developers who have money available that don't need banks that require a sign off like a certificate of compliance.
Yeah,
And you wonder where they're coming up with their money, but there are those out there. So I'm going to look into it. So thanks for pointing that out. I mean, even if it isn't for the same reason that that you had heard about,
We can
it's
find
something we better look into now that you brought it to my mind.
Thanks, Lee.
Yeah, no problem.
Glad
It was
you
brought to
brought
my
that one up.
attention, so I just wanted to make sure I said something.
I thought that the area to the left of that building looked a little ratty too. I'm not sure what they're supposed to be doing in there, but it looks like weeds and junk in there.
Yeah.
That's true. That's a 50-foot protected buffer to the wetlands, and it's supposed to be planted with a conservation mix. And if it's just weeds, then they're not meeting the requirement. So it's a little late in the season to have them changed, but we could do an enforcement order on them for spring to make sure they get the conservation mix in there. So yeah, that space was regraded. It had a lot of construction debris in there. And so they regraded it and put up a barrier so that they wouldn't go into it. But if it's just weeds and not accomplishing anything, we need to get that rectified. So we can do multiple things on that inspection that I'll do tomorrow.
Okay, anybody have anything else?
So just to tell you, our next meeting, we have no new filings. We have the continued hearing for 148 Bedford Street, the pool.
Yep.
And we could discuss the zoning thing a little bit more. But that's about all we have for anything, because nothing new was submitted. I do have some invoices, so before we stop, we better talk about that. So I was thinking of canceling the meeting, except for we can't. If we're gonna have that continued hearing, we need to close it. But it'll be a quickie.
Okay,
Okay.
well, with Zoom, it makes it easier. We don't have to all go out at night.
Yeah.
Especially with,
Yep. So even if it's a 10-minute one, we can do it and get it done with. So I have a couple of invoices, and I have signature pages for the 143 Scotland Street Certificate of Compliance we approved tonight, and the invoices. So I will have them here. So if anyone's available tomorrow to stop by, I'll need the signatures. So the first invoice is for Ramco 1550 for flagging. I'm sorry, wooden stakes, beanpole stakes. And that's beanpole stakes that were used at Pratt's Landing on our conservation land to lay out where the parking area is going to be, that hopefully we'll get a donation of contractor work to make a nice parking area in there. WB Mason office supplies for $1642 and $3240 for two different office supply orders that we had recently. And that's it for invoice.
How much was Ramco's?
What's that?
How much was Ramco's?
Ramco's was $15.50 for a bundle of bean poles.
Oh.
So I can come by and sign in the morning.
Great.
same here.
Well, you can sign my name if you want.
I could probably come around noontime or so.
Okay, so the only one we need multiple signatures is the
Right.
certificate of compliance and the determination of applicability we did at the last meeting for the Kenneth Street, where
Yep.
Kenneth Street extension, where we had the little addition being put on the house. So there's one determination and one certificate of compliance, and then Tim usually signs the warrant for everybody.
So I would just
So
entertain,
you need a motion.
yep, to sign the warrant.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
Oh, second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
All right, that is it
But you-
finally.
You still need multiple signatures for some of them, right?
For two of them, yep.
Two of them, okay. I'll swing by.
Thank you, Mo.
All righty, nothing else.
Good
before
job,
us?
Min.
I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.